All right, thanks for joining us. We're the FLEOA 111 Project. We've got a great show for you guys today. Will, tell us who we have.
We've got Ernie and Kirk, who are the directors of the Krav Maga Universal organization. Very fantastic, awesome training. They do ground, stand-up, shooting, weapons, Krav Maga, you name it. They're very law enforcement friendly. They got a lot of law enforcement members, and it's worth investing our time in. They're going to be at the October 16th seminar doing a block of instruction there. We're fortunate to have them.
Yeah, be at the seminar. It's going to be in Crofton, Maryland at Bellicose Martial Arts. So big thanks to them for hosting that. There's going to be, Ann and Ernie are going to be there along with some judo practitioners, BJJ practitioners that are highly respected within their disciplines and within law enforcement. So we're looking forward to that. Actually, we're filling up right now. So make sure you log on to our website at FLEOA111project.com. Go ahead and get registered there.
That's on the Facebook page. We'll set up an event here soon, and you can go in, and the sign-up link will be part of the event.
Right. You'll be able to do the hyperlink in through there, through the social media accounts. You can find us on Facebook. You can also find us on Instagram. You can find us on YouTube as well. That said, I want to thank Chaos Watches. If you guys haven't had a chance to look at their website, enterchaos.com, you can go there now. They have a special discount. Just make sure you enter FLEOA111 into the coupon code, and you'll get a 25% discount on any watches or silicone rings. I've got one of their watches on right now. Love it. Very, very cool looking watch. Very durable. Can't say enough good things about it. If you want to make donations, you can make donations on our website, or you can make donations at Fund the First. We've had a lot of people make donations. I want to thank you for that. This is a very valuable cause that your money's going to, trying to train law enforcement and get law enforcement out there to train outside of their agency. So we're doing a lot of positive things. We couldn't do it without your help. That said, let's go ahead and jump into this. Now, I will tell you, we already pre-recorded this interview and we had a lot of technical issues. So just bear with us through the technical issues. I think you guys will enjoy the podcast that we have.
Hey, Dave, real quick before we do that, didn't we get some new rash guards in?
We do, yes. We don't have them in yet, but they are coming. So probably in another 3 weeks, we'll have them. They're going to go for $60. You can buy them on our website at FLEOA111project.com. We're also going to have merchandise as far as shirts, hoodies, hats, long sleeve, short sleeve shirts, etc. So those will be available for you as well. 100% of the proceeds go towards the 111 Project. Again, we are a not-for-profit. Our main goal is to get law enforcement trained and to bridge that relationship between community and law enforcement. That said, let's jump into this with Ann and Ernie Kirk. Thanks for joining us today. This is part 2. We tried doing this, maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and we had a technical error on my end. So I appreciate you guys coming back and giving it another go. So thanks for joining us. So real quick, we've already kind of told our audience a little bit about who you guys are, but could you guys just tell us a little bit about who you are and your background?
So my name is Ann Kirk. I like to call myself a movement specialist. I started out with a major in dance and then ended up going to graduate school for physical therapy. And then from that started kettlebell training in Krav Maga. And now I help Ernie out at our school in Westchester, Pennsylvania. So I teach our kids program. I teach some of our adult classes. I run our women's self-defense program, and I teach a strength training class. So just trying to figure out the best way to get your body to move to make you feel good.
I got you. And just to clarify, you're a doctor also, right?
So I'm a doctor of physical therapy.
Oh, cool. Nice. How about you, Ernie?
I started kickboxing in the 80s. Oh, man, it feels so long ago. Boxing, judo, and I started teaching Krav Maga in 1996, and been teaching it ever since. I was a school teacher. I taught pre-deployment training at Fort Dix. I worked with some local law enforcement agencies. That's about it.
For people that don't know, which I would imagine is maybe 1.00000% of the population, what's Krav Maga?
So what is Krav Maga? In our opinion, we believe that is actually the heritage of the Israeli people, based in the research that our colleagues have done and that we have been educated by. It was born out of necessity that the Jewish people needed to defend themselves. So they kind of figured out what worked best. I like it because from a physical therapy movement specialty standpoint, it's a lot of functional movement patterns, but it's basically just a very aggressive way to defend yourself. We have a curriculum here at Krav Maga Universal that we teach. So we created a teaching model for it, but it's also in general, Krav Maga is a great way to just learn how to defend yourself quickly and efficiently. It's based in principle, so it can be translated to help any demographics.
Now I'm a refugee from the Mississippi public school system. So enlighten me. You say principle based. Give me an example. You can edit that out though, right, Dave? I don't want my people angry with me.
I think everybody listening can already assume that's your background. So I don't think I need to delete that.
Whatever.
I think using principles. When I first started training in Taekwondo and other martial arts, you would learn like 10 different defenses for everything. And it was like, which defense do I do? Well, it's Thursday at 2:00. I should do this one. But there were no real rhyme or reason when or why you would do certain defenses. You just learned them. You had to memorize them. Krav is more about, we're teaching you the principles of how to defend yourself, and you put that into the context that it needs to be in. So it could be someone's choking me. Our first defense would be, or our principle would be, remove the threat. What's the danger? The danger, create stop action. Give your partner some love, whatever way you want to say it. And then it would be get away, because I'm not law enforcement. I don't have to handcuff somebody. I can go. For law enforcement, it would be remove the danger, create stop action, and then go into whether it's handcuffing, higher force weapon, lower force, and going from there. So we teach these principles, and then we put people in scenarios and have them actually think for themselves, as opposed to just go and everything from a wrist grab to someone punching you is stomp the head. No, it's legally, that's a nightmare. And it's learning about what's allowed, what's not allowed, and then how you can work through it.
So, we asked this earlier, had a few technical issues. I think I had to edit it. Circling back to that, you guys are the founders of Krav Maga Universal. Tell us about that program, how you got into it, how long you've been doing it, and where you guys are located throughout the U.S. And that may be a lot. I know you guys are pretty much everywhere, but tell us a little bit about that.
I was sort of thrown into the Krav Maga Universal leadership. I was teaching an organization that has a group, and we needed a separate body to train and test them. So we created Krav Maga Universal. But being me, I don't consider myself like the end all be all. I surrounded myself with people that are better than I. And we have people like Paul Landry Smith, who was a counterterrorist in the UK. Paul came to America. He's a firearms instructor. He's a medic. He adds a lot to us. And Tom Whitaker, who's a pro boxer and kickboxer. We have all these people from all around the world that help us train school owners and instruct people that, associated with in Italy who are special forces, and they work with security for Parliament. So I try to get people that are better than I am, which, on a weekly basis, I get the crap beat out of me in my own.
Right. So what did you call him, Will? A pajama warrior? Is that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Previously,
I'm not clear. I'm unsure what you're talking about.
On a previous episode that we were unable to record due to technical difficulties, Will dimed out all Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners. Pajama warriors.
That is not what I said. That is not what I said.
Poor Will.
I'm standing up.
Sigh.
It's his Mississippi education. That's all right.
Have you held a pad for Will ever?
No. I maybe here.
He's held a beer for me.
Yeah. No, not yet. Maybe at this next seminar we're doing on October 16th that you guys are going to be at. Maybe I'll. Yeah. I'm sure it's not going to be much of a challenge, but yeah, I'll hold a pad for Will.
Yeah. So, following up with KMU, what skill sets do you guys kind of cover in your curriculum? I know, shameless plug. At the Krav camps, I see ground, I see shooting, et cetera, et cetera. So what do you guys cover in the curriculum of the organization?
From nuts to bolts, we start stand up. We have ground. We even have shooting, gun defenses, knife defenses, stick. I'm a big proponent of learning how to do it offensively to better learn how to defend yourself with it. So I love bringing in different jiu-jitsu instructors or judo instructors and talking about how we can make things better for teaching students, because there's so many ways we can streamline this to give students what they need and then also give them a challenge for later on.
So I think one of the cool things, circling back to what we talked about Krav Maga having principles, is that for each kind of demographic, you have a different skill set, right? So we have white belt to third degree black belt Krav Maga techniques, but that's just the technique. If you just have, like Ernie was saying before, if you just have a choke from the front defense, that only, if you just tick it in a vacuum, then all it is, a pluck or a pluck this way. But when you add something to it, like you need to retain your weapon, or you need to deploy your weapon, or from a women's self-defense standpoint, who is that person that you let get that close to you to choke you? 9 times out of 10, it's someone you know. So you have a baseline of these techniques, but what sets us apart from different organizations is that we also bring in outside organizations, things that aren't Krav Maga, to help better teach it. So we work with domestic violence centers to understand the threat that a woman would have. We work with Gung Ho Schwang to help us understand what an actual knife attack would be. That we learn a knife combat so that when we do a knife defense, we understand why we're teaching what we're teaching. We work with law enforcement. Ernie and I are not, firearms instructors, but that doesn't mean that when we teach our students, we can't understand how a firearm works. So I think as an instruction team, we try to make sure that we're teaching people how to defend themselves. If they're going to use this as something more than exercise, we're not setting them up to be injured.
Yeah.
Pajama warriors.
Pajama warriors. That's right. So, I wasn't too familiar with the Krav camps that you guys put on until I got introduced to you guys through Will, and Will kind of told me about it. And anybody listening, you can follow you guys on social media, Krav Maga Universal, and then Kirk's Krav Maga Martial Arts. But one thing I do recall from looking at some of the photos and talks that we've had before is these Krav camps predominantly are law enforcement. You have a lot of law enforcement that show up to these camps. Can you talk to us and tell us a little bit about that? Like how did you get into training law enforcement, and how beneficial is it when they come to these camps?
Well, sort of fell into it. I would have law enforcement students, and we'd talk and we go through things. And then I had law enforcement students that were defensive tactics instructors. So we started coming up with different scenarios, helping them out, but then also trying to evolve with it. So now we're like out for local departments doing munitions, or maybe handcuffing, or different scenarios in training. And we come in with our students or instructors and we go through it. And the cool thing for me is I was a school teacher. I sit down afterwards with the DT instructor and we go through, what went well, what didn't, how can we make it better? Was our objective? How did they learn what we were trying to teach them? Because it's really easy to come in and just shut people down, but it's hard to actually work them to a point where they're gaining experience by it and thinking.
Anything else, Will? Anything you want to
add? When is the next Krav camp? Is February? March?
February.
Where is it going to be this time?
Our next Krav camp will be in Palestine, Texas, which is about 2 hours east of Dallas. It'll be the first weekend in February. I don't know those dates off the top of my head. Registration is open at internationalkravcamp.com. And then we will have our Pennsylvania Krav camp is the 3rd weekend in August every year.
If I remember last time, correct me if I'm wrong 100%, but if I recall the previous camp in Pennsylvania, you guys offered law enforcement scholarships, or did I get that wrong? I can't remember.
No, we do. We offer a discount. So we have either an early bird discount that's kind of usually about $100 off. And then we have a law enforcement discount as well, 10% off the cost. So you just need to reach out to me, and you can, even if you go to our website and you shoot me an email that says, hey, I'm local law enforcement and I'm looking to train. We'd like to encourage law enforcement to train because we understand how difficult it is because of your work schedule. So if there's anything that we can do to facilitate training, then we do it. So we figured offering a discount could help.
And one thing I forgot in the questions, what agencies are represented in KMU? Is it mostly locals, or is it local, state, and Fed?
We have local, state, and Fed, because I have a couple people from federal agencies that have gone through instructor certifications too with us.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned contracting. Was it contracting at Fort Dix?
Yes.
Okay. And is that any military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, etc.?
I worked for the DOD, and I was a lead combatives instructor for pre-deployment training for the Air Advisor Academy. And then we worked with Air Force Special Operations. I've done Army, Marines, but mainly it was Air Force, just part of their pre-deployment program.
Nice.
the beautiful thing with Krav Maga, and I said this on, we had our previous podcast with BK, one of your colleagues, and Krav Maga is such it's a well-rounded art because you're taking a little bit from everything and you're pulling it in, and it's highly practical for law enforcement. It's more in tune to what they may encounter day to day. So it's very valuable, and we're honored definitely to have you guys at the seminar and try to get you guys out as much as we can and talk about Krav whenever we get a chance to. But one of the things that you guys also do, you focus on not only the civilian component, you focus on the law enforcement and military component, which I applaud you for, but you also focus on women's self-defense, specifically you, Ann. Some of the stuff that you do, again, I'm going to kind of harken back to what I said before about looking at, your social media pages. If you guys aren't following Ann and Ernie, their social media, follow them because you guys do a lot. So can you tell us about the successes that you've had with the women's self-defense there at your school and throughout the country? Because one of the things we want to do with the FLEOA 111, and we did this at our first seminar, we had a women's self-defense class and we had a huge turnout. They want us to do it again. And I think maybe we've got this one coming up October 16th during Police Week. After that, everyone we do throughout the U.S., East Coast, West Coast, central part of the U.S., we're going to definitely implement a women's self-defense program to precede, maybe start before we do our seminar for law enforcement. That said, tell us a little bit about how you got there and what you do.
Great. So I kind of fell into women's self-defense. I was the highest ranking. Wow, we fall into a lot of things. I was the highest ranking in the program. So it was like, hey, you're teaching a class. And it started out as just regular Krav Maga with pink gloves. And I was like, oh, okay. So we did it and it was fun. And then I started really thinking about it and listening to people, the women. Sometimes you'll hear people talk about women getting triggered in these self-defense seminars. And I'm like, well, how come guys don't get triggered? I mean, there's post-traumatic stress everywhere. What's the difference? So I started looking into, what are the actual threats that women face? Is it really the bad guy in the parking lot? And statistically, it's not. 1 in 4 women will be the victim of domestic violence. And that's a higher rate than being mugged, raped, or in a car accident. So we just weren't talking about what the real threat was. And that's why I feel like there was such a high rate of triggering and women feeling uncomfortable in these self-defense seminars because we weren't talking about the mental component. So I started working with the local domestic violence center, and there's a time and a place for that type of cognitive training. We do stress inoculation with law enforcement and military. Why don't we do stress inoculation with survivors of domestic violence? So I'm starting to build that into my seminars, into my series. I think when I do one-off seminars, I talk mainly about how someone small can affect or create injury into someone bigger than them. So I take my physical therapy background and I talk about the structure of the human body, because whether you're 6'8", 280 or 5 foot, $105, your skeleton works the same way. So if I can create an anterior to posterior force at someone's hip joint, then they bend. And so if somebody's really tall, I can chop them down, and then I can aim for some higher value targets that'll create an injury that'll increase my ability to get away and get help. So I talk about the mental component, and then I give women just principles again, right? Find something hard on you and hit something soft on them. Use the physics of the skeleton for your advantage. And then I talk about how to generate a lot of power through the rotation of the body. So making sure they're striking the right way. I barely talk about techniques. Just because these damn bad guys, they just don't attack you the right way. So it's more for me about the aggressiveness, the mindset, and generating power in order to create injury. So that's how I do it. And I've taught women up and down the East Coast. During COVID, I had to kind of pivot into virtual sessions, which allowed me to do more of the cognitive training. Every Sunday, I would get on Facebook Live and talk to people about situational awareness or mindset and the OODA loop. Talked about that a lot. Talked about, identifying your baseline and then things that are outside of your baseline, teaching your kids about situational awareness. So it's developed into quite a full spectrum type of training.
No, that's great. Stress inoculation, we kind of hinted at that a little bit on the last podcast. A lot of people that are out there training, whether it's jiu-jitsu, maybe even Krav Maga, some other disciplines, they may not know what it's like to be in a intense situation where your auditory exclusion vision goes out, your tunnel vision sets in, the dexterity, you lose it in your fingers. And if you don't train to be aware of that or be prepared for that, you're really setting yourself up. It's really detrimental to your overall wellness if you do encounter something. So good on you guys for really pushing that. A lot of people don't push that. And a lot of the average citizens out there, especially, women that are looking into self-defense, they don't understand that. They may just be focused, okay, if I get this one technique down, I'm set. Well, not exactly. There's some psychological things that you need to be prepared for. And you guys are doing a great job kind of pushing that to your clientele, because that's very, very important for survival, is knowing what's going to happen physiologically to your body. So good on you.
Yeah, I mean, you can say it as much as we can preach about it and for that class and tell them. But what we've noticed, and something that I've learned from Ernie, is that if you can create a game where there's a competition to win, then it's not like I need to fight for my survival and I'm scared. It's, I need to win. And there are quite a few women out there who are quite competitive. You'd be surprised when you put a prize at the end of that game, how quickly the fear turns into, I'm going to win, you have to lose. And if you can kind of create that situation, then you can take a lot of the fear out of it. And then afterwards, you could be like, oh, yeah, see how that worked? And they're like, oh, all right. And that doesn't mean that people aren't going to cry or get nervous, but it's not like you're going to send somebody spiraling. So it's great.
Gotcha.
So where do we find you guys? If somebody wants to look up KMU, you're on Facebook, are you on Instagram? And if they want to specifically go to Kirk's Martial Arts, I can see it behind you. How do we get somebody to you?
So, yep, we are on Instagram and we are on Facebook. We have websites for everything. I will, Kirk's Martial Arts and Krav Maga is our school. So that's kind of like our hub. And then from there, everything kind of builds out. So you can find International Krav Camp. You can find us at Krav Maga Universal. Ernie has a Facebook page. So Ernie Kirk, so do I, Ann Kirk. Or even I have a professional page that's Ann LaGrady Kirk. That's my maiden name. So we're everywhere.
No, well, I appreciate you guys coming on. I know this is our second time trying to do this. We'll definitely have you guys back. We had some issues the first time and we had some technical issues today. So I'm looking forward to editing this. This is going to be fun. But thank you for coming. We appreciate it. I can't wait to see you guys and meet you guys at our seminar October 16th. We've got people registering left and right to that. So we're going to have a good turnout there. A lot of good instructors. We've got our Krav Maga instructors, Ernie, Ann, and BK. And then we've got some jiu-jitsu. We've even got some judo instructors coming there. Tons of experience. It's going to be a great opportunity for law enforcement and civilians in general. So looking forward to meeting you guys. Thanks for coming on board.
We just finished up a great interview with two fantastic folks who run a top-notch organization. We look forward to having them at the October 16th seminar in Maryland. We're fortunate they're going to be putting on a block of instruction and that they're going to be involved with 111. Also, want to encourage everybody, if you haven't yet, subscribe to our Facebook, our Instagram, and our YouTube channels as well. Dave, what you got?
Rash guards, you can go on our website here in another week. You can start pre-ordering your rash guards, $60 each. We're also going to have other merchandise available, t-shirts, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve shirts, hats. Feel free to go on there and look. I want to thank everybody that's already donated money to our cause. We are not for profit. 100% of the proceeds from all merchandise sales and donations go towards us putting on these seminars throughout the country, some other projects that we have that are aimed towards law enforcement and bridging the gap between community and law enforcement relations. That said, I want to thank everybody for your support. We'll see you next time.